Hi, everyone. Welcome to What in the World is Happening, a show about Maitreya, the world teacher, and the Masters of Wisdom. We broadcast live every second and fourth Saturday of the month on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitch, and Zoom. And at the end of every episode, we do a wonderful, simple, powerful meditation called Transmission Meditation. It's a great way to help the world, and we do it live so you can participate with us. We hope you can stick around for that and give it a try. We do about a half hour. If you have any questions during the show or comments, please feel free to submit them. We have John and Silito doing our tech crew and social media support, so they can forward questions. We'll try and address them during the show, or they'll answer them for you. And they'll be posting some links to lots of great information that you can check out at your leisure. Today's topic is Signs of Maitreya's Presence in the World, Part 2. So my name is Tim Bootskas. I'm broadcasting from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I'm filling in for Sabina Qureshi, who is here for Part 1. And also we have our two guest speakers who were here to present Part 1, and they're thankfully back again for Part 2. We have Adrienne Magana from San Diego. Hi, Adrienne. Welcome back.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And Elisa Graf from
Good
Germany.
To be here.
Hi, Elisa.
Here, thank you.
And thanks for coming back. So we're going to do a little review of Part 1 as well. You can see the whole show if you'd like on the Share International Canada Facebook page anytime. We have our previous shows posted in the videos section, so you're welcome to check that out too. So Maitreya's presence in the world. Looking at the screen here, we have a variety of images. Miraculous phenomena, circles of light, crop circles, people in the streets demanding justice. It seems like Maitreya's presence in the world covers a variety of things.
Yeah, I would say, I think that we have symbols of his presence through, for example, the gathering of the forces of light, which we'll go into a little later, but the crop circles and are one of those symbols and signs that he is here. In fact, actually the crop circles, which as I said, we'll talk about later, are mostly present around London because that is where Maitreya is based. So this is where those crop circles are mostly appearing.
Oh, that's interesting. So it points to his presence, maybe, these crop circles. And also in the activity in the streets and the gathering of people demanding justice, we're at a key point in our history. And it seems to encompass an all hands on deck, all areas of life. We can all, I'm sure, feel the tension and the change in the world. And so we're going to talk about who Maitreya is and what his presence in the world means, and also the energies at play at this time amongst humanity. We can talk about, definitely there's several factors, the change of ages, which we'll talk about, Maitreya's presence in the Masters of Wisdom, as well as humanity's evolution and its readiness for change. So we'll give you some background information here. A lot of the information we're sharing comes from the Ageless Wisdom teachings. Maybe Adrienne, you could tell us a little bit about that. I think he's frozen there.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. So, well, I'm happy to jump in. Sure. The Ageless Wisdom teachings has been revealed in the West through four major teachers of the Ageless Wisdom teachings that were actually all of them trained by the Masters of Wisdom. Helena Blavatsky was one of the first. She brought an enormous amount of Oriental concepts from the East to the West when she founded the Theosophical Society in the United States. I don't remember the year exactly, but she was a powerhouse, and the Theosophical Society is still in evidence today, and many of her writings have been read by luminaries like Yeats and Einstein. Alice Bailey came next, and she was actually originally a theosophist and studied under two of Helena Blavatsky's disciples. The books that she produced for one of the masters, the Master DK, are still read all over the world, and there's still quite a lot of activity in the groups that she founded, also Triangles, for example, a lot of other things. And much of Benjamin Krem's information has also been related. He's often recommended people read the Alice Bailey teachings is a very comprehensive. Helena Roerich was the wife of Nicholas Roerich, who was actually nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize because he founded an organization called Agni, or what's it called? I'm sorry, it's not Agni Yoga. It's actually a Pax Cultura, I think, which there's a symbol of 3 red dots. 3 red dots. Oh, we have 2 things. We have feedback going on, which basically was he asked the UN, he wanted to promote the idea that science and religion and arts could save humanity. And so he was actually nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. But Helena Roerich was one of the disciples of the masters, and a very high-level disciple, and wrote a series of books called the Agni Yoga Teachings, which are also directly from the masters. So then Benjamin Creme came along, and it was actually said in the Alice Bailey books that there would come a teacher in the 70s or so, and Benjamin Creme stepped onto the scene in 1974. He introduced transmission meditation and also began lecturing quite extensively on the Age of Wisdom teachings and on the return of the Christ and the Masters of Wisdom to the everyday world. So his work spawned Share-Intl International, an organization or group of volunteers worldwide. And this is from where we've gotten most of our information.
And so this information, I mean, is available to everyone, correct? This body of teachings, and it's the Ageless Wisdom teachings. So they didn't just start in 1831, correct?
No, of course not. This is a body of wisdom teachings that was part of the oral tradition and has been passed down through all the different cultures since man has been on our planet. So it's not something that's brand new. As I said, Blavatsky actually spent 3 years in Tibet, and by herself. She traveled. She's an incredible person. Her biography is amazing. But she worked with the masters and was given the task of bringing this information, these teachings, to the West especially. And that's why she founded the Theosophical Society in the United States. So these teachings, they underlie, there's a relationship between all of the world's religions. At their base, this is a wisdom. And so there's, regardless of, they tie everything together. Regardless of people's beliefs, you can see this thread of wisdom running through, especially the esoteric traditions of all the main religions. So this is nothing new. It's actually been around a long time.
And covers all areas of life. So part of the Ageless Wisdom teachings talk about, and of course, as we're talking about this is information that for us rings true. We've read many of these books and experienced and worked with it in our lives, and it rings true for us. So the information we're sharing that comes from these teachings, all we're doing is sharing for you to listen to and run it through your hearts and minds, see if it resonates for you. We're not asking anyone to believe it necessarily, but if you listen with an open heart and mind and analyze it, run it through, see what you think. And if it resonates, great, feel free to share it. This information, of course, is for everybody. And I mean, as Elisa was saying, it's ageless, so it's been around throughout our history, but is now available to everybody. So that's sort of an evolutionary thing, I think, in consciousness. Like we're ready to use these teachings at this time, and that's why they're available for everybody. So it's kind of an unfolding of that. Historically, I think it was available to small groups or individuals that could actually put it to use, and inspired much of the major movements historically.
I think it's also very important to note that it actually brings everything together into one understand, a comprehensive understanding. So it's not divisive. It's a unifying perspective on these ideas. On the world religions, and it shows how they're all connected.
And it goes very broad too. Of course, it talks about the a new era that we're embarking on and the change of ages. Maybe Adrienne, you could talk a bit about that. This is another factor that's at play right now.
It is. Sorry, my computer was not working actually, so I'm using my phone. How's the sound?
Sounds great. We're happy to have you back.
All right, good. So yes, so let's start talking about this. yes, humanity and the planet and the whole solar system is moving into a new age. This is an astronomical fact. The solar system is moving and it's now aligning with the constellation of Aquarius. This process takes a little bit longer than 2,000 years. It moves from constellation to constellation. For the last 2,000 years, we've been living in the Piscean age. Now we're moving into Aquarius. What this means is that every constellation has a different quality of energies that are sent throughout the cosmos. And we receive these energies. So during the last 2,000 years, under the inspiration of the constellation of Pisces, one of the things that happened is that the energy of the individual was spread out. So we see that manifesting in the examples of the search for individual qualities, and that helped the progress of humanity. We're now moving into the age of Aquarius, the water carrier. And one of the qualities of this time is that these energies bring synthesis. Things come together to create something better, something beautiful. And this quality of energies are manifested through group work. So now we're moving into this new age, the Age of Aquarius, and Maitreya is the avatar for the present age, the Age of Aquarius. He is the water carrier, and that is the symbol of one of his functions. Being the water carrier, he releases waters, and this is the water of life, per se. It's actually the energy of love. Maitreya embodies the energy of love, and during this time, his mission is to release this energy, the energy of love, throughout the planet, so that he can do his work. I think we're going to go into what that means further into this conversation.
So this could attribute to some of the great changes we've been seeing in the world at this time.
That is correct. And one of the main things that we can see right now, like I said, we're moving from one era to the new one age to the new one. And right now we're seeing this huge conflict because the energies are about equal between Pisces and Aquarius. So there is a conflict between the energies that are moving away, the energies of Pisces, who have a very strong hold on humanity, on our consciousness, on our structures, on our systems, because for the last 2,000 years, this is the main energy that has created and produced progress. Now the energies of Aquarius are coming in, and there's this conflict, there's this tension. As more of the energy of Aquarius moves in, all the structures that are created under Piscean energy begin to fall apart. But these structures, these personalities, these qualities refuse to give up, right? Mm-hmm. They want to stay alive. They want to continue existing, which is it's a natural process. They must disappear. They don't work anymore. Most of them don't work anymore, right? They were useful for the last 2,000 years, not anymore. So the energies of Aquarius are coming in, and there's a destructive aspect of that because all crystallized forms can no longer survive, so they have to go. And like you said, we are seeing a struggle right now, almost in every area of life, because there's this conflict between the energies that are moving away and these new energies of Aquarius that are coming in.
So, and that's every sort of area of life, isn't it? Political, economic, social, all seem to be not working like they used to. And what else?
Yes, and anything you can think of, right? Any area of life you can think of, there's this conflict, right? Because there's a little bit of everything, a little bit of Piscean energies, and little by little more of the Aquarian energies that is coming in. So you can think of anything in your life: politics, education,
religion.
Health. Yeah, correct. Most of what we see right now is the remains of the old age, the Piscean age. And as we can see, what we're talking about, most of the areas, economics, medicine, politics, the old ways don't work anymore, right? And we can see that. And it's pretty obvious they don't work. And they are creating chaos. By trying to stay alive, they are creating chaos. And at the same time, by this new energy is coming in, and with the destructive force that brings, chaos is everywhere. It's part of the natural process, I would say.
It's a very challenging time, isn't it? But a very hopeful time with these new energies. I mean, these people marching in the streets, gathering together, working as groups. These are all, I would imagine, results of Aquarian energy, Maitreya's presence in the world. These ideals manifested on the physical plane. I guess the ideal of human rights actually manifesting, becoming real, where we actually regard them and put them in a workable format and structure.
I would say so, right? I mean, the way I understand it, we're talking about energies. These are very subtle energies. Right? These are invisible, right? We don't perceive them, we don't sense them, but they are coming in, and each one of us is assimilating these energies, right? And like you said, in particular, the younger generation gather these energies, and they want to put them to work. So they gather in groups with the same purpose, with the same mission. And like I said, in particular, the younger energies, they want to change the world. They are receptive to the energies of Aquarius. So they want change, and they work together. And like you said, there's movements all over the world because people want change. The younger generation wants change. They're tired of the old ways, and they want to try something new. They want to bring beauty and love into the planet. And
we can also see that things aren't working anymore, right? So that's our politics aren't working anymore. It's not business as usual isn't working anymore. Old school leaders are failing. You know, they don't meet the needs of the time, which have changed already, right? So people's demands are being expressed, but the old order can't actually keep up.
Yeah, day by day it gets stronger. That things are not working. It's not working. Right. And you're talking about the Great Resignation, I suppose, and people not wanting to go to work.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is interesting, right? Because I wouldn't have expected this to be this way, but when people have time back, you know, they have to be at home because of COVID, because of lockdowns and such, they come to realize that actually maybe the lives they're living aren't really meeting their needs either. Their priorities have changed, you know, so there's a lot of interesting stuff happening, right?
Yeah. So throughout all of this, when we're challenging ourselves, we're like, well, this is how I used to do it, but it doesn't work anymore. We've got one foot in Pisces, one in Aquarius, the younger generation coming up all with lots of Aquarian energy. It's a very challenging time, but we're not alone in this. And there are other aspects at play, right? The great energies are integrating. It's up to humanity to sort of receive them as well. And again, as a part of our transmission meditation is part of that work as well. But they're also the masters of wisdom. So we could maybe talk about them as well. They're fully aware of this great change and are here to help. They've always been around behind the scenes helping humanity, but they're now coming out into the world externally as well. So we could talk about that. I guess first we should mention here on this slide here, all people are divine. So, and the masters of wisdom, we're talking about all of us being divine. It's all inclusive. Everyone's part of this great change and evolution. We are on an evolutionary journey. We are souls in incarnation. They're the different kingdoms in nature, the mineral kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, animal kingdom, human kingdom, and the spiritual kingdom. And so all of these kingdoms are evolving, and it goes on beyond. Everything in the cosmos is continuing to evolve. So humanity seems to be at this stage of its evolution as well, where it's ready to recognize more and more that we're divine, recognize its own divinity. And so it seems the masters of wisdom are here to help us recognize that too and express it at the beginning of this new era. So who are the masters of wisdom? Elisa?
Okay.
Or Adria?
The masters of wisdom, as you pointed out, are part of they make up the kingdom of souls, which is the kingdom above the human kingdom. It's to what we evolve into as we evolve, our consciousness evolves. They are elder brothers. They've gone ahead of us on the spiritual path. They've learned everything there is to learn on this planet. They're perfected men and women. And actually we can find examples of, throughout history, we can see examples of those individuals who were a little bit further ahead of the curve in terms of their consciousness and how it was expressed in their lifetimes. I'm thinking of people, of course, like Jesus, but even any of his disciples, they were far more evolved than the average people of that time. And we've always had these different people are at different stages on the path. So the Masters of Wisdom, having evolved to the point of mastery, self-mastery, they're masters over all of the phenomenon of life, and they're masters over themselves. They have reached a point at which they don't need to incarnate on this planet anymore. And they've completed their evolutionary journey. But they also know, which is actually spoken of in many of the world's religions, including Buddhism, of course, there's this thing called the vow of the Bodhisattva, which is about the fact that the evolution of consciousness is about recognizing our innate relationship to everything and then serving. Life is service, essentially. And so the Masters of Wisdom have remained behind on our planet. They've postponed their next evolutionary step to serve humanity. And they've never left us. There have been exponents of the Masters of Wisdom who've come age after age to help us find our way. There's a meme going around on Facebook that says things like, Jesus and the Buddha, they didn't come here to start religions, they came to teach love. And that's essentially what they do. They're exponents of love on a level that we can only imagine, really, because they're at such a different vibration, such a different level of consciousness. We can really only imagine what they're capable of. But essentially, they come in age after age in groups, actually, to help the process of evolution of consciousness at that time, especially in difficult times like this transition from one age to another. So now is one of these times. And those teachers we spoke of earlier, Alice Bailey, Helena Blavatsky, Helena Roerich, all of them were speaking about the Masters of Wisdom. They were all students, direct disciples of the Masters of Wisdom. And so they could share this message. And so it's been building up from the 1800s when Theosophy was founded to try and educate humanity, especially in the West, about the Masters of Wisdom and about their mission.
So they would have communications with the Masters of Wisdom.
They had direct connection.
So direct connection,
They were directly connected to them. Mm-hmm.
And it's great you said the masters of themselves. They, when we say Masters of Wisdom, they're not masters over anybody so much as they've mastered themselves and express love. We could think of them, I suppose, as very wise elder brothers and sisters, part of they evolved out of the human family. And
in fact, I think when we think about some of the great teachers that have come into the world in the past who are well known, like Muhammad and like Jesus and like Zoroaster, and I mean, all of the main religions were not actually, these individuals didn't come again to start religions. They were people that were students of them, actually started these religions, and they became over time rather ossified, so that they don't really reflect the original wisdom that these teachers brought, which was one of understanding our relationship to everything else and to our fellow man as brother, as rather than this divisive, competitive perspective that many religions today espouse, it seems. So essentially, the Masters of Wisdom, there have been many that have come into the world and are known. The Buddha is another example. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's important that we recognize that we're talking about not just average human beings. I mean, they look just like us, and they will look just like us when we see them. They'll speak, they won't look like anybody other than a normal human being, but they have capacities that are way beyond a normal human being's capacities on so many levels. Especially in terms of expressing the nature of God, their divine nature.
So a deep well of wisdom and love.
Exactly.
And we also have Maitreya, Adrian, maybe another master of wisdom. You mentioned he's the water carrier, and he's here to help during this transition. What else can we say about Maitreya?
Well, Maitreya comes at the head of this group of great teachers, the masters. One way to look at Maitreya is he is our eldest brother. You could say that he is the first member of this human family, of which we all belong to, that achieved this great liberation and became a master. He and his brother, the master Buddha, many thousands of years ago became the first masters out of this process of evolution in this planet. And Maitreya made a promise that he would stay here and oversee the process of evolution and help humanity move as far up and as fast as possible by teaching and by releasing love, because he embodies the energy of love. He's very important in the sense that pretty much every single religion in the world talks about him under different names. He's never really mentioned under the name of Maitreya, except in Buddhism. In Buddhism, he is known as the future Buddha, Maitreya Buddha. Depending on which branch of Buddhism, most of them expecting to be here thousands of years into the future. We believe that he is here in physical body, actually living in London, and already teaching, already releasing his energies, already doing his work, and just waiting for the right time to make his announcement public. There has to be all the right conditions for him to do so. There are quite a few of them, but basically humanity has to begin to show that he wants to move forward, to manifest love, and to introduce the concept of sharing. Maitreya will be here for the next 2,000 years until humanity reaches the next stage in evolution. He will guide us, he will teach us, and he will do everything that is being promised in most of the religions.
I think it would be also important to say that actually in Share-Intl magazine, starting in the 1980s, Maitreya made many appearances around the world to Orthodox, especially Orthodox religious groups. And through Benjamin Creme, the places where he showed up in the guise that was expected by those he was meeting, and spoke to them at length about what's happening now and about the fact that their teacher is returning. So there were hundreds of them. I think it was quite a large list, and I think that list can be seen still on Share-Intl website. So maybe that can be put in the chat box or in a link given to people watching, because he did actually appear, and it's also Benjamin Creme's master also explained what the reaction of those audiences was wherever he was. So, and in many of those places, there was a healing well that was also associated with his visit. He charged it with special energies, and we know of 3 of these healing wells in India, in Mexico, and in Germany.
And so you're saying, so he appeared to an Orthodox Christian, may have appeared as Jesus, or they would have seen him as Jesus in that appearance.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And so the number of people that were present, and also the reaction and the name of the city, and so these were all given out through Share-Intl by Benjamin Creme's master.
And a lot of people have had personal experiences too with the Masters of Wisdom or Maitreya anywhere, perhaps appearing as a homeless person or a hitchhiker, or all sorts of different scenarios. And Elisa, by the way, you have a podcast called Mystic Takeaway, and you talk to people about that. Is that right?
That's right. Many of my guests are Share-Intl coworkers, but also others who've had experiences that were related to the masters appearing to them. In many cases, very personal sort of experience. But this is how the masters work. They appear to be a normal person, but they have some insight about you, and something inspires you to realize that there's something very special happening when you have these experiences. Some cases, people were saved from accidents. Their lives were saved in some cases. So people can tune into Mystic Takeaway, which is available on all streaming platforms, podcasting platforms. And every 2 weeks, I interview somebody who shares one of their stories or a few of their stories related to this. So thank you.
And Adrienne, you were on there too, right? Adrienne,
Yes,
you did one of them?
I have
Yeah.
been in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Another thing about, so
go ahead.
another thing I wanted to say about Maitreya is his name. I think that's kind of important. The meaning of his name, Maitreya, is a Sanskrit word, and it means the happy one, the joyful one, the one that brings happiness, joy to life. And that's very important because it is part of his mission, is to bring joy and life back into humanity. And he says that if you want to be happy, if you want to manifest joy, which is your natural state, you have to help others. That is part of his teachings, that we are here to serve. The masters, that's pretty much all they do, is serve one another and serve humanity. And that is the natural process of being alive. We are here to help others, to serve. And by doing so, we actually achieve what we are here to do. And that is being alive and being joyful. And so Maitreya, the happy one, is here to teach us that if you want to be happy, just go out and do some type of service, help others.
And you can feel that when you help somebody, you get that feeling in the heart. And that resonates in Maitreya's heart. As you say here, he embodies love for the planet. That's huge. Love through the planet. I'm in a demonstration, of course, it just brings it to mind when people gather to represent each other, to help with justice, for fair treatment, for right human relations and human rights. You feel that in the crowd if you're there, demonstrating and working towards change, positive change for humanity. And we were talking about Maitreya's presence, I mean, and how he's appeared to individuals and different areas, but he's also appeared in some of these rallies and protests too. One that I love that comes to mind is in 2003, the Peace March in London, in Hyde Park. There's 1.8 million people there. And Maitreya, it was confirmed by Benjamin Creme that Maitreya appeared there as an Afro-Caribbean man, sort of cheering people on. And there was a camera crew nearby doing an interview. I have a little thing of what he said when they asked him. He just said, waking up, the world belongs to the human race, brother. I'm proud today to hear my brothers and sisters speaking the truth and showing out the lies. That's beautiful. All the young generation, black, white, they're all going around this place. And I love to see that. I would never miss it for £1,000,000, brothers. And all my little brothers there, all my little brothers and sisters, all the way coming from way out. I'm really glad we are waking up. Wake up, brother, keep the faith. Keep your eyes on the prize, and the prize is humanity. For the human race belong to all of us. Remember your humanity and forget the rest. Because if you do not, only darkness lies ahead. But you, our new generation, have seen the dawn of a new order, and the order belonged to the human race.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Wonderful words.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's what we prioritize. Keep our eyes on the prize, and that's humanity. Mm-hmm. So he's here. He appears in these rallies. His presence we'll talk about. I guess we should get on to his presence here.
Well, I think it's also a good idea to just say about the masters and Maitreya that they never infringe the free will of anyone or of humanity itself. That's actually one of the reasons why they don't just come out and say, "Hey, here we are,"
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to recognize in our hearts. We have to recognize who they are. They can't actually, because it's a situation where anybody who has that kind of capacity, that kind of power that they do because they are so evolved, we would just sort of say, oh, okay, well, come along and you can take care of this, but they're not actually here to fix things. They're here to help us, to inspire us to do the job of transforming the world. That is their mission, and they're not here to do anything other than inspire us and to share that incredible love that they share to show us the way, essentially.
So really, yeah, the work is ours, right, to make these changes, but we've got lots of support and cheering on. When we make those changes, we feel it. And it's very powerful. So let's see here. Well, we should mention Maitreya's priorities. This is what he's concerned about. We were talking about this affecting all areas of life. Maitreya is very concerned with all areas. It's not just a religious thing. Spirituality covers all aspects of life. And so as we recognize our divinity and that everything is sacred, all avenues, political, economic, social, all of this we need to treat with sacredness, is my understanding. And the best way, Adrian, you were saying about sharing, that sharing is key for Maitreya's coming out into the world as we demonstrate sharing and looking after our brothers and sisters. So these priorities, healthy food, clean water, housing, healthcare, education, repair of the environment, these are all major priorities.
Yes, I mean, these are his priorities, but this should be everybody's priorities, right? These are the conditions right here that every single human being alive on the planet should have access to. Every single human being should have access to food and water and housing, healthcare, education, any level of education. And also perhaps his main priority is the saving of the environment, because without environment there is no humanity. We know that there is no future, and the way to accomplish this, to achieve these priorities, is by sharing. That is the easiest thing to do, right? And it's very powerful, very simple, but very powerful. And it works two ways. One is that it brings pragmatic action. If somebody's hungry, give that person food, you're solving that problem. But at the same time, you're recognizing that the other person is your sister, your brother, is part of you. It's this oneness, it's this unity that is being manifested. And at the same time, as you give love in the form of food, or in the form of housing or whatever, you're manifesting love. So you're manifesting what you are here to do, right? And that's manifesting your true nature, being alive and being full of love.
Yeah, I think it's important to say, without sharing, there can be no justice. Without justice, there can be no peace. Without peace, there can be no future. That's what Maitreya says. So he also says that the best way to serve is to see the need in your brother and solve the problems of the world by doing that, by recognizing the need. So when we're talking about getting people food and housing, in some cases, obviously, we have a homelessness crisis in many parts of the Western world. And obviously we can be, because it's in our midst, but there are lots of people, we can be doing something about that. There are lots of people who are suffering that are far away from us, but we have to change the political structures that are enabling that to persist, this problem. We have to recognize the need to solve these issues, because we have the means at our disposal to do something about it. I mean, we have the technology to change anything we want on this planet. We all know that now, especially after COVID. We know that if we can stop everything from happening, if we can make all these things, make vaccines to go all over the world, whatever. Of course, we didn't do that, but
it would have been a good lesson in sharing.
It would have been a good lesson in sharing, but we failed that one. But I think the point is that we have to recognize the need for us in the West to actually elect leaders who actually represent the priorities of these times, that we need to fix these problems, and we have to be responsible for whoever is running our government. In fact, actually, Adrian has something to say about the political situation in many of the countries of South America and Central America, right? There's some very positive signs of Maitreya's presence.
Yes, I mean, the topic of this particular episode, right, is the signs of Maitreya, right? So there are many signs. Some of them are miracles that we will talk about, such as crosses of light, crop circles, but there are also signs that in the different aspects of society. So including politics, there are signs of changes, and a lot of these changes are because of Maitreya's energies. So again, we're moving from one spectrum of society into another one. We're moving, like I said earlier, from Piscean energies to Aquarian energies. So in the political area, we can see that we're moving from old structures into newer ones, and different countries are moving faster than others at different stages. And in South America in particular, they seem to be moving towards a more enlightened future. I would say, I think in particular, countries like Peru and Chile have elected leaders that are lean towards the left, in the sense that they are open to helping the population and establishing new systems that actually help the people. So this is people power, and this is an outcome of the members of the societies demanding changes, and they manifest that through going to the voting process and electing new leaders that promise and hopefully will offer them a change for the better, following Maitreya's priorities, right? Different countries should be able to access housing and healthcare and education. That's the role of governments, right? They are civil servants, so the government should be providing everything the society needs.
And a larger the governments working together, the nations working together as well when we're talking about sharing. You have the very wealthy nations that need to share with the not so wealthy nations. I think when Maitreya is talking about sharing, he's talking about on a large level internationally. So all the sort of excess that each nation has could be redistributed. Resources could be redistributed so that each nation has the resources it needs and a good chance when it has to meet the demands. So it's like you say, the government that's actually representing the people and meeting the demands also is dependent a bit on the redistribution of resources on the international scale.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. One of the things, the way I see it is that a lot of governments are manifesting all Piscean energies, and they're manifesting at this point their vices. These are all the structures that haven't evolved, so they are corrupted. So a lot of governments are manifesting corruption, right? And they're very selfish, and they are creating systems that only benefit the fewer, right? So the change in the opposite direction is quite the opposite. It is manifesting things that help the whole of humanity, and it's not only each country in its own, but like you were saying, Tim, the future points to the fact that countries are going to help each other, sharing the resources that different countries have, all right, in excess perhaps. So we are seeing those changes, and that is good news. And the way I see it, that is one of the signs of Maitreya's presence in the world. It's an invisible manifestation of his energy being manifested again and in the different countries.
And that sense of frustration on the side where where it's so obviously corrupt, that where it says here, love is frustrated in its expression by unjust politics, economic and social conditions. So all the frustration that we're feeling, that corruption has become so obvious, you can see it's ripe for change.
I was just going to point out, though, that what is being suggested is nothing too radical, really. It's not that I think the point is that we can all see there's enormous success in the world, and there's also enormous poverty. We have a situation where there's so many people in the world that are dying of starvation still every day. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's always been pretty bad. They're 35,000 a day, some really crazy number. So millions of people don't have the basic essentials of life. And the new United Nations Article number 25, the Human Declaration of Rights, basically explains that all human beings should have their basic needs met. They should have security. They should have a home, education, fresh water, food. So these are things that are Maitreya and the masters are suggesting that we have to fix this problem because there's no need for it. It's just about the will. We haven't mustered the will. And that's the reason why it persists today. But there's no other reason other than the fact that humanity doesn't recognize that it's one family.
So the will of the people, the voice of the people is key to this.
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk about youth activists and whistleblowers today too, right? Some of those voices and some more signs, crosses of light around the world. Adrienne?
Yes, like I said, there are different kinds of signs, right? And some of them we will call them miracles because they defy what we understand as the laws of nature, the laws of physics. So crosses of light appear seemingly out of nowhere in windows, right? I think windows change the structure, and all of a sudden, if there's a light reflection behind or a light source behind them, we can see this beautiful design being manifested in the windows, right? These crosses, they happen everywhere. My experience that they tend to happen around people that are very devout of one religion or another, right? People that pray a lot and are always asking for help from a higher source. These people don't necessarily need to believe in Maitreya or the masters, don't have to believe in the story. But when they're asking for help, it is the masters that listen to their prayers. And one way that they manifest the answer is through these miracles, such as the crosses of light.
Yeah, these pictures also, Baldwinstein, Germany, this is a special thing. I think Sabina took this photograph, and it's actually, you can see that there is some kind of a special energy that's shown up on the image there. It's a blessing. The masters actually do leave their blessings for us to find on photographs. So it's actually, is that on, yeah, let's see, it's in Share International magazine and you can find images like this. And I think this one was also already printed in the magazine. And then there's the circles of light, which are a little different. And in this case, I took this photograph in Denmark last September. I was just traveling through and I saw these circles of light. These patterns are showing up all over the world. Yes, they are reflections from buildings, but at the same time, the actual pattern changed. It went from just looking like a normal reflection, and they have a different quality to them. They are manifested by the Space Brothers actually working with Maitreya, and they have a specific purpose. They actually, in some cases, they actually also reflect certain energy, but they have other purposes as well. They're kind of another calling card, the way that the crop circles are, to show us that there's something going on and to draw our attention. And there have been people who've said that when they've that the actual pattern of the light changes from day to day in some cases, so it's not the same. Yeah, they're very interesting.
In Canada here, you get snow circles too. You see them on the snow, which are quite beautiful. But keep an eye out. You might see them. They're all over the place in buildings and all sorts of areas. And check your photos.
That's right.
So, and this is another sign here, the crop circles and the Space Brothers.
Yes, another signs of Maitreya's presence, right? The crop circle. These crop circles are also very interesting because they are also signs of visitors from other planets, right? Space brothers and space sisters. Most of them come from our neighboring planets, Mars and Venus. And just like the masters, They're very advanced beings. They're very loving. They're full of love, and they only wish to help humanity. They do not infringe free will. So they cannot just land during the middle of the Super Bowl and say, here we are, right? And get ready, right? The show is about to begin. It doesn't happen that well, right? So they have to do calling cards, right? It's like when you walk into a parking lot and you find a lot of advertising in front of your windshield, right? That's kind of like what they're doing with the crop circles, right? And so that people pay attention. What's going on? Who's making this? How are they being done? What kind of technology? Ask questions and you will find the answers. Another thing about the crop circles is that most of them happen in southern England, and that is because London is part of southern England, and Maitreya lives in London. So Maitreya and the masters have contact with the Space Brothers, and Maitreya asks him, "Can you do me a favor?" Among many favors that Maitreya asks Space Brothers, and can you do a lot of crop circles around my neighborhood? They do happen all over the world, and because they are kind of like chakra points, energy vortices, right? They're pointing, because eventually these brothers and sisters will talk to the people in charge when the people in charge are nice enough, and they will release a certain technology, what we call technology of light, and that will be the future. We will use the sun to fulfill all the energy needs that we have here on planet Earth, and it will be free and technically unlimited. But first, we have to evolve enough to the point that the concept of war is no longer alive in humanity's consciousness. Even though that seems almost impossible and utopian, it is actually closer than we think. According to the masters, we're very close to achieving that. If you talk to the younger generations, which are the future, a lot of them see no point in war. They really don't understand. They see it, again, like I said before, they come prepared for the changes. They are Piscean in the way their structures, so they understand, and they don't see any purpose in war. So Space Brothers will eventually help us by releasing technology, in particular the technology of light.
I have to mention too, the Space Brothers help a great deal with the environment and mopping up a lot of pollution within karma. And one of the things they do is with nuclear plants, there's a lot of destruction. We think it's safe in the nuclear plants. And I have to mention it now because a lot of people are talking about nuclear as a solution to energy supply instead of fossil fuels. And calling it clean energy, but it isn't really. Scientists haven't seen the layer that it affects, which is the in the etheric. So you have your solid, liquid, gas, and ether. So the etheric field, that substance is greatly harmed from these nuclear plants. And of course, I mean, there are other effects we can see too from nuclear plants, but it's a major cause of problem for the environment. And so the Space Brothers have helped a lot with cleaning that up, but it's something we'll have to make sure that we keep under control as well, in my opinion.
I just look at the time. It looks like we're running out of time, and we haven't really touched.
This happens. Yeah. So should we go to youth activists, or what would you like to go?
I wanted to talk about the sort of cleavage, if
Yes.
we can, right?
Okay.
Because it's very important. The sort of cleavage, my personal understanding that this is perhaps the most important sign of Maitreya's presence in the world, right? The sort of cleavage. And the sort of cleavage is it's a symbolism of Maitreya's energy. Like I said before, Maitreya is the embodiment of the energy of love. And the energy of love is an impersonal energy that is flowing into the planet now more than ever. And one of the things it does is that it stimulates everybody in every area of constitution. So you become more of who you truly are. So if you're a loving person, you become more of a loving person. If you're a selfish person, you become more selfish. If you're greedy, you become more greedy, and so on and so on. So it's separating everything into two different camps, right? And we have to choose which camp we go to. So it's dividing. It's one of the things that the sort of cleavage, the energy of love, does. It divides things into two different polar opposites, and it's very clear right now that this is happening all around us. It is one of the effects of the sort of cleavage is polarization. And in every area that we look around, you'll see that there are two camps, 2 points of view, 2 versions, and these 2 opposite versions seems to be moving farther apart every day. And like the third point, by this action, then the choice becomes clear. You either want to go to the left or you want to go to the right. It is a personal choice, and I will say neither one is right or wrong. Both choices are part of the plan. You just have to choose one, and hopefully you'll choose the one that is aligned with the energies of Aquarius, and it's a progressive energy. It's moving towards manifesting the plan of God, because there's a plan.
And this polarization is very tangible, isn't it? And on individual, on all levels, it seems.
I think it's the hallmark of the time we're living through, especially the last 2 years, right? I mean, that's really, really evident, I think, to anyone.
Yeah. And we have some quotes here in reference to the sword of cleavage as well, right?
From the Bible.
From the Bible.
Exactly. I think that it's really important to just remember the sword of cleavage is not an actual physical thing. It's actually the energy of love, as Adrian already said. And essentially, and it's not personal. It's and Maitreya's presence is actually what is wielding the sword of cleavage. This was spoken about in the Bible, and he basically said, don't think I'm going to come and bring peace to the earth, because his presence portends change, and that is why this transformation is not easy for many people, because they're still attached to the old forms that are now dying. Whether it's whatever institution you want to look at. So he doesn't come to bring peace. He comes to, he's going to bring a sword. The sword is the energy of love, which forces us to get off the fence and to stand up for something that really we care about, and something hopefully that's not just personal, but something that has to do with serving our brother and social justice and that sort of thing. So I think these quotes are really interesting, because it seems like, you wouldn't expect a divine being to say that I've come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. But the fact is that each of us are individuals. We have to find where we stand. And that's why the conflict is so difficult.
Yeah. And we have a quote from Maitreya through the Master, through Benjamin Creme as well, about the sword of cleavage, just put through here. Is precisely the action of the sword of cleavage that we are witnessing today. Maitreya's energy of love stimulates everyone, the one who loves and works for justice and sharing, but also the one who causes the divisions, schisms, and greed in the world. In this way, through the clear opposition created by the sword of cleavage, men can arrive at a true choice for the future for all men, the poor and hungry, as well as the men of money and the destroyers of peace in the world. Choose on which side of that division we find our truth.
Nice.
So a great time of choice.
Do we have any time to talk about the both whistleblowers and
we do. We can go.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got it through the chat.
Okay, good.
So yeah, because this ties right in with the activists and whistleblowers, ones who are taking that action for change, and those that are sort of expressing some of these choices and trying to move the structures into their new formats. And you can see, of course, we talk about the rise of global activism, demonstrations and rallies all over the world, unprecedented. Evolution, not revolution. Yeah,
that's
go
a
ahead.
very important, this is a really important point, obviously, that you know, we've seen what revolution does. We have a whole long history, recent history of revolution, and we can see that it's a very dangerous situation. And obviously there have been times when it was necessary, but what the masters are advocating is not revolution, but evolution. And it's a step-by-step process that every individual is involved with their own destiny. And we're at a time in human history when, you know, the connection to the world has gotten very small. Technology has made it possible in just a recent few decades for anybody on the planet to talk to anybody on the planet at any time. Everything has changed, and also the mechanisms, the infrastructure is in place that we could deliver the goods and needs everywhere in the world. There's no reason for us not to be able to do that. That's why sharing as the sole means for ensuring the process of evolution instead of revolution. We're really on the precipice. You know, there's a lot of people in the world today who should be very upset about the fact that they don't have any resources. Mm-hmm. So sharing alone will engender the trust that's needed even to start this process. So that's why it's really important.
Very important in the process, create that trust.
Yeah. Going back to that quote by Benjamin Krem, or by Maitreya, you know, sharing, see if I can find it. Without sharing, there can be no justice. And without justice, there can be no peace. And without peace, there can be no future.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the rise of youth activism. I'd just like to read this quote by Greta Thunberg, because she's the most visible at the moment, the most visible of the youth activists today. We can no longer let the people in power decide what is politically possible. We can no longer let the people in power decide what hope is. Hope is not passive. Hope is not blah, blah, blah. Hope is telling the truth. Hope is taking action, and hope always comes from the people. So she's a representative of another generation who gets it, because every generation brings with it the tools to solve the problems of the time. And I don't think anybody looking around the world today could deny that we have an unprecedented number of youth activists in the world now, working desperately to help solve the climate problems, to get out and to get people active and engaged with this process of seeing the responsibility we all carry for this problem and trying to find solutions to fix it. So we have a number of youth activists that the next slides are going to showcase. If you want to move on to the next one. So we have a few, I'll just say a few things about each one of them. So they're from all over the world, and you can see that there's the Climate Action Summit 2019, but these kids have been involved in this process, often in many cases from the time they were very young. They're now teenagers here. So Anya from the United States was the National Outreach Director for the US Youth Climate Strike. And she wants to make sure that people from all communities are involved in climate action. She says that being an activist is a tough job because you have to sacrifice so much of yourself to help the people around you and advocate for what you believe in. And she recommends that people support your fellow activists, because having a good activist network and support system will help you. And then the next gentleman, the next boy here, he's from Kenya, and he is a soccer player. And he planted 1 tree for every soccer goal he scored. He's now plants 10 trees for every goal, and he's planted more than 200 trees so far. He's got a Trees for Goals initiative. And he said, anything you can do to help, no matter how small, whether it's planting a tree or picking up litter, even sharing information on social media, anything counts, as much as you think it doesn't. But people have to know that it counts. We can move on to the next 2. Lords is from Auckland, New Zealand. And She represents the Maori. Her father is of Maori descent. And she says, I believe that indigenous people were the first climate protectors. We're so connected with the land. It's important to us that it's protected and taken care of. So she's attended the UN Youth Climate Summit to represent the people of the Pacific Islands. I feel a responsibility to bring these voices up to such a global scale.
Wow.
And then this boy, Aditya, he's from India, and he focuses on plastic waste, and he helps organizations. And anybody who's been to India, India has some real problems with waste. So he helps organizations find ways to sort their waste so that plastics can be sent for recycling. He also helps organizations make a switch from plastics to more eco-friendly alternatives. He says he's hopeful for the future if we make change right now today and not just some other day. And the next slide shows these two women. This just happened a few months ago. These two women scaled the port of Newcastle in New South Wales, which is huge. It exports 158 million tons of coal every year. That was in 2020. And they stopped this coal port from from doing its work for hours. They scaled a huge mining rig, and I love what they had to say about it. Another system is possible, and we know that because one existed on this continent for tens of thousands of years. It's now our duty to defend the biosphere that gives us life, and to every person that Australia has forgotten and ignored. In a system that only cares about money, nonviolent blockading tactics that cause material disruption are the most effective and accessible means of wielding real power. These are young women, they're in their early 20s. You know, it's absolutely amazing what they're doing. So I just feel like the courage and the fortitude and selflessness of these young people should really be acknowledged. You know, we're in good hands, you know, the rest of us.
They're very in tune with what they want and what we need, and in tune with what
exactly.
humanity needs. Yeah.
Exactly.
I like this quote here: when leaders start behaving like children, children must start acting as leaders.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, I forgot to say that, but that's it. I mean, they've taken it into their own hands because they can see that it's not going to go anywhere unless they do.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's one more youth activist here. He's adorable. He's 14 now, but he's been an activist since he was 6.
Wow.
In Colombia. And Colombia is one of the most dangerous places in the world to be an activist. In 2019, 64 environmental activists were killed in Colombia. And he's already had death threats because he actually advocated that young people should have access to computers for learning. And somebody threatened his life. So essentially, he also received, as a result of that media coverage, he received accolades from the UN directly. They actually, let me find out where my notes are. It said, the UN has hand-delivered a letter congratulating him for his pioneering work in the South American country where it's not uncommon for environmental activists to be killed. And they said to him, they need more people with his passion to protect the planet. And they agreed that the internet connectivity needs to be improved for boys and girls around the world. Mm-hmm. So it's essentially, and look at the courage of this little boy. It's amazing. Really
it's amazing. Wow. Incredible, these young leaders. And then we have the whistleblowers too. Another way of being active to bring forward these changes.
Yeah, yes, it is another form of activism, right? And the amount of activism happening right now in the planet is a sign of Maitreya's, right? So whistleblowers is a form of activism. It's also a sign of Maitreya's energy, that individuals feel the need to be honest and to share information that they have access to, that they feel is important for the general public to know, because they feel that somehow the information hidden is destructive to humanity, right? So we have a few examples of whistleblowers. Bradley Manning, who now is Chelsea Manning, helped Julian Assange with the WikiLeaks project. They released a lot of information concerning the United States and the actions of the military in other countries. And that was very important because honesty is very important. It's part of the future. We have to be honest individually, as a group, as a society, as governments. We have to practice honesty as part of Maitreya's teachings. So whistleblowers do that, and by releasing information, they help humanity. That's the idea. Edward Snowden is another example. He released a lot of information concerning NSA, National Security Administration here in the United States. And that brought a lot of things to the light. One of the changes that is happening is that everything is coming to the surface. So things that were lies in the past are coming out because we need to know what's going on in the planet, in the world, so that we can decide in which direction we want to go.
Right.
I think we have a couple other examples. Yes, Jeffrey Wigan. He's perhaps one of the most famous whistleblowers. There was a movie made about him. And the thing about whistleblowers is that they also manifest heroism. Right? There's courage because they put their lives at risk by releasing this information. There was a Hollywood movie regarding his particular situation, Jeffrey Wigan. Russell Crowe, I think, played his character in the movie. I forget the name of the movie, but he pretty much let the world know that smoking was not very good and that big tobacco companies, corporations knew this and they were hiding this information. They knew that smoking wasn't good for our health and they were lying to us and they were using every means that they have at their disposal to lie to us. And Jeffrey Wigan decided that it was important to share everything he knew, that smoking is not good for us. Now we know. Now it seems like everybody knows. But back in the day, big tobacco companies that were telling us that it was actually good for you to smoke, right? And it was part of everybody was smoking everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. It was everywhere.
It was everywhere, right?
Hard to think now on the planes and the theaters and the bars. Yeah.
Yes. And,
Wow.
and in part, those changes are in part thanks to him.
Yeah. And I think that movie's called The Insider. That's what it's called. Yeah. There's another one called Dark Waters too, about a whistleblower on the Dow Chemical as well that had been poisoning some of the waters. So that's a good movie too. A lawyer that fought hard to bring that into our awareness.
So there's a reason why we're talking about this, because again, these individuals, the way I see it, react to Maitreya's energies, and they want to do something that they feel is good for the welfare of humanity, right? We have another example. Steve Dossinger is not really a whistleblower. He's a lawyer, and he fought, in this case, big oil, and he won a lawsuit in Ecuador because I forget, it doesn't really matter which company is the one that was doing the damage.
Chevron,
you can choose the name, Chevron, I think it was. You're right.
I think so.
But he won the lawsuit in Ecuador, helping the indigenous people that they were suffering because of malpractices, pollution. And when he came back to the United States, these big companies use every means at their disposal, including the law, to go after him. So they invented some charges against him, and now he was arrested. He lived under house arrest for a while. Then he lost his appeals. He went to jail. There is public outcry because a lot of us feel that he's somehow a hero. And he was released again into house arrest. So he's still fighting his case. It's another example because Maitreya says that commercialization is more dangerous than nuclear bombs. The fact that we produce everything and we make money out of everything is not good. Mm-hmm. And because we just define the end by saying, well, it's good for us because there's profit behind it. And that's not the way we want to continue to go. And there are many examples. This is one of them. An individual going after big corporations, in this case, big oil, and winning, then the federal government goes after him. It's a sign of changes that are happening. Hopefully we'll see more of this, and the public outcry, because people know there's a level of awareness what is right and what is wrong, and people are supporting, in this case, Stephen Dossinger or many other activists around the world that are bringing change.
I was just going to mention here that there are these class action lawsuits against big tobacco and big oil now that are going on to testify to Congress about their disinformation campaigns. So you can see a lot of movement there. And we have another whistleblower here, Sergey from Russia, who at great risk absconded information video. He was an inmate at a Russian prison, which was notorious for rape and torture and videoing, using it for blackmail. And as an inmate, he was able to, over a period of 2 years, get some of this information through the prison library network. And he managed to get a few terabytes worth of information. He could never mention it to anyone or anything. He had to keep it all hush hush. Of course, he would be killed. So he managed to escape with it and release it. And now he's in asylum in France with all of this evidence. And since then, he found was very inspiring. There are 4 other Russian prisons with information that was leaked as well, and videos. So he kind of set the precedent there about the incarceration industry in Russia and blackmail. Well,
here we go.
Here we go, yeah. So some words from Maitreya here. The major need today is for the transformation of the structures within which you now live. Your civilization, my friends, is dying. Nay, it is already dead. Out of its ashes will grow a new being, a new, can't see it.
Beauty, a new beauty.
Beauty, perfect. Whose basis is love, justice, and sharing. So like a phoenix, we're rising out of the ashes.
Yes, that is one of my favorites, Maitreya's quotes, and it's very significant. It does represent that the things that are old in their structure that don't work anymore, they have to die so that new structures come that represent beauty and joy and love and happiness and everything else you can think of that is achievable for the benefit of humanity. And that is happening. These are some of the signs that we were talking about. There are many other signs throughout the world of these changes that are happening in response to Maitreya's energy and the presence of the masters.
I think also if you look again at this idea that we're moving from one age to another, and what Adrian spoke of already in terms of these qualities of each of these ages, the quality of individuality, which was something humanity needed to developed over 2,000 years. And now we need to, in the Aquarian age, put to the service of everyone our individual talents and skills, and our sense of individuality needs to be put in service to the group. And that's the whole idea of the new age, and the fact that our civilization, these structures are outworn, they're outlived. We can build something now new, and in a way of synthesis, the way that the Aquarian age is training us to, by its energies, to do. So essentially, that's why our civilization is already, it's past its prime. It's actually crystallized, and it's time to build something new based on these new energies.
And they're available. It's amazing to think. And some we're not really familiar with. So try new things and experiment, and you might sense them and work with them. It's amazing. And I guess There we are. If you, we have some additional resources. If you like what you've heard here, if it resonates with you, feel free to share, like the video. We have other videos on the Share International Canada Facebook page you can check out. These are some additional resources. Website, www.share-international.org. There's a YouTube channel, Share International on YouTube, and some great books and downloads on share-ecart.com. We just show a few here. These ones are available for free. So if you want to start with a free download and check it out, feel free. Ageless Wisdom Teaching, the World Teacher for All Humanity, the Awakening of Humanity, and Transmission Meditation for the New Age. So we will be doing a transmission meditation together for about a half hour. So please stick around to join us for that. There is also here Share International magazine. It's a great magazine if you want to check it out. There's no advertising, great articles. It's translated into several languages. There is a subscription information on share-ecart.com. There's always a message from the master. There's very positive articles on all these courageous individuals and what's happening in the world with humanity, these changes, the change of ages. It gives a different perspective as to what's happening in the world as well. Yeah, it covers a lot of miracles and signs in the world, a lot of different areas. So feel free to check it out. So transmission meditation. It's very simple, easy to do, very powerful. It's done in a group. Pre-pandemic, we would always gather in groups of 3 or more to do transmission meditation. Since the pandemic, we've had to do it on Zoom, but we found that it's very effective. And we do have, we'll put some links if you like the experience and you want to do more. There are transmission meditation groups that you can click on the link and participate more often. Definitely, if you have a rhythm of this meditation, it builds and grows, and it's very, very powerful. And whatever, it's open to everyone, anyone over the age of 12. It's non-denominational. And it essentially takes these powerful spiritual energies that are flooding the planet, and it steps them down through this process, and you transmit them in a form that's usable for everyone, because these great energies, if left raw, would just more or less bounce off the back. They're not as usable unless they're transmitted and stepped down. They're just too much. They would blow the nervous system. So this is a way to help the world, and that's how it is. By stepping down these energies, you're helping each other by helping to absorb and use these energies. And when you do the transmission meditation, you don't have to direct the energy. The masters of wisdom oversee this. They're master scientists, so they know all the energies, all the potencies. They can look into your energy system and know how much to use and send through, and they direct it. So you don't have to worry about sending it to this area of the world or that area of the world. And sometimes they withdraw energy from an area of the world for a particular purpose as well, to create the proper change. So would you guys like to say some more about transmission meditation?
All I can think to say is that there's only 2 contraindications. So people who have any issues with mental health, it can be too stimulating, as well as people who have heart issues. So it can be too stimulating for those reasons. It's very powerful. Most people won't notice necessarily. They might feel something in their head when they start, but even if you don't feel or experience the energies in any tangible way, it's still working as long as you're doing it correctly by maintaining your attention on the Ajna center, which is the chakra between the eyebrows.
I think we have a question coming here too. Can we put it through the chat? We can tell you how to do it. It's very simple. You simply keep your attention here between the eyebrows at the Ajna center. So you have your eyes closed and you focus here. Well, you don't have to have your eyes closed, but you focus here, the Ajna center. During the meditation, your attention inevitably drops. You might get distracted, whatever. You think the word Om, and it brings your attention back here at the Ajna center. So it's a process of meditating and bringing the attention back up to the Ajna center every time it drops by thinking the word Om. As we said, we don't have to direct it anywhere. you can think, you're going to think anyways. That's the process of the lower mind. But as the meditation goes, you'll find that your thoughts will probably slow down and recede. And you can be comfortable in a chair. There's no special poses or anything like that. Let's see if that question has come through here. May I add to that? Okay, no? Okay, sorry, we can't. You could say something in the chat if you'd like. But we'll do the meditation. It always starts with what's called the Great Invocation. And the Great Invocation is basically sounds a bell to let the Masters of Wisdom know that we're ready to meditate. And so again, like I was saying, the Masters of Wisdom direct all the energy through the chakra system. So let's see here. Who would like to say the Great Invocation?
I can say it.
So again, just think the word Om when your attention drops, but keep your attention here at the Ajna Center. And
okay.
Begin.
Great Invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth.
Okay, and that was transmission meditation. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, we do have some Zoom transmission meditation groups that you can check out the links. They'll be posted here if you want to try it again. There are several transmission meditation groups that you can join in with. And also in a couple of weeks, Sabine and I will be talking about transmission meditation as the topic for our next show. So you can learn more about it and participate with us again on February 12th. So we hope to see you again. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks, Cielito and John, for all your wonderful social media and tech support, and Sabina for putting the slides together. And of course, thank you, Elisa and Adrienne. Wonderful having you on the show and speaking with you. So we'll hope to see you again sometime. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you in a few weeks.